This is my report on COL1 related overlap disorder Ehlers Danlos syndrome. So, what is COL1 related overlap disorder Ehlers Danlos syndrome? Ehlers Danlos syndrome is a group of inherited disorders that affect your connective tissues, primarily your skin, joints, and blood vessel walls. Osteogenesis imperfecta is a group of genetic disorders that mainly affect the bones. People with this condition have bones that break and fracture very easily, often from only mild trauma or even with no apparent cause. Multiple fractures are common and can occur even before birth. This is also called brittle bones. COL1 indicates that this type of Ehlers Danlos syndrome is a mutation associated with the genes encoding for collagen. It's important to note that COL1-related overlap disorder is not officially classified as EDS. It is not viewed as a type of EDS by the Ehlers Danlos Society, who states that rather than being EDS, these individuals that are suffering from it are suffering from EDS and osteogenesis imperfecta at the same time. However, its classification is still being debated, and according to researchers at the Fondazione IRCCS Casa Sollievo della Sofferenza in Italy, it is a missing type of EDS. Because of this, I will be consulting sources regarding COL1-related overlap disorder Ehlers Danlos syndrome, osteogenesis imperfecta, and Ehlers Danlos syndrome in this presentation. So, characteristics. What are the characteristics? What part of the body does it generally affect? COL1-related overlap disorder, EDS, is caused by mutation in a collagen gene, so it affects the whole body, from the skin to connective tissue and bones. Individuals suffering from this disorder may experience mildly reduced bone mass, occasional fractures, and slightly shorter than average height, as well as an unusual range of movement in joints, stretchy, fragile skin, soft tissue injuries, and chronic musculoskeletal pain. What happens to the body? This disorder takes a toll on the body. The COL1 genes provide instructions for the body to assemble type 1 collagen, a protein important in giving structure and strength to the body. This defect in the structure of type 1 collagen results in weak connective tissue and bones, leaving the body prone to fractures, dislocations, and of course, pain. Because this impairs bone development, aside from being fragile, bones may form abnormally, leading to shorter than average height. Symptoms: overly flexible joints, which is pictured above. Stretchy skin, fragile skin, osteopenia, which is lower than normal bone mineral density, abnormal tooth development, hearing loss, chronic musculoskeletal pain, tiredness, and irritability. How common is COL1-related overlap disorder Ehlers Danlos syndrome? COL1-related overlap disorder Ehlers Danlos syndrome is rare enough that no statistics are available for it specifically. However, there is at least 21 confirmed individuals with this disorder who were in a study for the Fondazione IRCCS Casa Sollievo della Sofferenza in Italy. However, approximately 1 in 10 to 20,000 people suffer from classical EDS. There are also extremely rare types, such as dermatosparaxis, which has only been diagnosed in 10 individuals, all time. Odds comparative to 1 in 10,000 people having EDS include 1 in 10,000 measles cases are fatal. The odds of finding a 4-leaf clover are 1 in 10,000. Genetics. How do genes play a role in COL1-related overlap disorder EDS? How is it inherited? So firstly, I have a note here. Since I am discussing what is sometimes considered an overlap of two separate conditions, I will be talking about the inheritance of both EDS and osteogenesis imperfecta, rather than one or the other. However, in the case that researchers are correct, and this is a type of Ehlers Danlos syndrome, it needs to be mentioned that inheritance of EDS is very different depending on the type of EDS. I will be discussing the classical form of this disorder. Sex-linked. While no forms of EDS are sex-linked, a specific type of osteogenesis imperfecta called type XIX is. It is inherited in an X-linked recessive pattern, meaning that the mutated gene causing the disorder is located on the X chromosome, one of 2 sex chromosomes in each cell. Since males only have 1 X chromosome, a mutation in a single copy of the gene in each cell is enough to cause it. Since females have 2 X chromosomes, the mutation would need to affect both copies of the gene. This means that males are more likely to develop an X-linked recessive disorder.
It's 23 hours.
Excuse me. Another characteristic of this is that fathers are incapable of passing X-linked traits to their sons. Only this type of osteogenesis imperfecta follows a sex-linked pattern. No other forms of it or of EDS follow a sex-linked pattern. Autosomal dominant or recessive, spontaneous mutation. See example of autosomal dominant pattern pictured above. Osteogenesis imperfecta caused by mutations in the COL1 genes follows an autosomal dominant pattern of inheritance. This means that only one copy of the inherited gene in each cell will cause the condition. This means many people suffering from types I, IV, and V of this condition inherited it from one or both of their parents. However, there are exceptions to this pattern. Infants born with the more severe forms, type II or III, often have no family history of osteogenesis imperfecta. Rather, their condition is caused by spontaneous mutations in one or both of the COL1 genes. Classical Ehlers Danlos syndrome also follows an autosomal dominant pattern of inheritance. However, much like osteogenesis imperfecta, there are exceptions of spontaneous mutations, although they aren't all in infants, like in osteogenesis imperfecta. Genetics continued. What gene is impacted? COL1-related overlap disorder Ehlers Danlos syndrome impacts the COL1 genes, COL1A1 and/or COL1A2. When either or both of these genes are affected by this, they cannot assemble collagen correctly. What protein is impacted? The production of collagen is impacted by this affliction. Collagen is a protein that helps make up skin, bones, connective tissues, and more. The COL1 genes tell your body how to assemble type 1 collagen. When they are mutated, the body cannot assemble it correctly, and the lack of structure leads to brittle bones, overly flexible connective tissue, severe joint pain, and a plethora of other symptoms. A good analogy is a building where the frame wasn't assembled correctly. It isn't strong or secure. Connections. From gene mutation to protein created or disrupted to cell part to organ system impacted. See if you can make a connection from the DNA to the symptoms for the human. Connections. The mutation in the COL1 genes means the body is unable to assemble type 1 collagen correctly. Collagen is present in almost all cells, including muscle cells, bone cells, fat cells, skin cells, and more. Because the collagen is assembled improperly, these cells cannot function as intended. The bones, skin, connective tissue, and other organs function poorly. Examples include brittle bones that fracture with light force, joints that bend too far, and skin that stretches too much. This means whole organ systems don't work as they are supposed to. For example, the skeletal system can't fulfill its job as being a strong structure for the body when the bones and connective tissues are weak. This causes the symptoms of fractures, fatigue, because it takes considerable energy to even stay standing up, and chronic musculoskeletal pain. Prognosis and treatment. How will it progress or affect the lifespan, and is it treatable? The prognosis and life expectancy of a suffering individual. Individuals suffering from EDS normally have a standard life period. Individuals suffering from osteogenesis imperfecta also have a life period indistinguishably different from the general population. Those suffering from the overlap have not been reported to have an impacted lifespan either. Symptoms become more severe with age, however. Joint pain, bone fractures, and dislocations become more severe and frequent. Are there treatments for COL1-related overlap disorder, Ehlers Danlos syndrome? Treatments for Ehlers Danlos syndrome. Ehlers Danlos syndrome has no cure. However, treatments are available with the goal of preventing further damage to the skin and joints and managing symptoms that arise. These include physiotherapy to build strength and balance and support joints by strengthening muscles, absorbic acid to reduce bruising, over-the-counter NSAIDs such as Aleve and Voltaren to control pain, restitching of injuries related to fragile skin by plastic surgeons with knowledge of EDS, stitches left in twice as long, braces made to support joints and reduce pain. Pictured below are some examples of braces that might be used by someone suffering from EDS. Treatments for osteogenesis imperfecta. Much like EDS, there is no cure for osteogenesis imperfecta. Again, much like EDS, the goal of treatments isn't to reverse, but rather to prevent further deformities and fractures. These treatments include rodding, which is the insertion of a metal bar within long bones to stabilize and prevent further deformities. Braces and splints to support bones and reduce discomfort. Physical therapy, medication, surgery, positioning devices to help the individual sit and stand, etc., and care of pre-existing fractures. That is all. Thank you very much for watching, and here are all of my citations. So, that is all. Thank you.